Kyoichi is a regular salaryman who works in an advertising company. One day, he gets a surprise visit from an acquaintance named Imagase, who used to be his junior during his university days. When the two go out to catch up with each other's lives, Imagase reveals why he suddenly shows up in Kyoichi's life. Imagase is a private investigator who's been hired to investigate a case of infidelity. He didn't expect to be investigating Kyoichi, so now he's deciding whether to reveal the report to his client or let Kyoichi fix this mess. They continue their conversation in a sushi restaurant, where they reminisce about their university days. Imagase knows a lot about Kyoichi, mainly about his preferences for women. He thinks he knows why Kyoichi married his wife, so he wants to know how much he'll go to save his marriage. By the end of their dinner, Kyoichi asks Imagase to not report anything. Imagase agrees, but for a price. They end up in a hotel, where Imagase initiates intimacy. Kyoichi tries to refuse at first, but Imagase blackmails him. In a slightly mocking voice, Kyoichi asks Imagase if he loves him. Imagase says yes. The next day, Kyoichi attempts to get close to his wife Chikako by scheduling a date with her. Chikako looks excited as she agrees. Thinking that all's well in his marriage, Kyoichi continues to see his mistress. After spending a couple of passionate hours with his mistress, Kyoichi is surprised to find Imagase in front of the apartment. Imagase chides Kyoichi for continuing his affair. Kyoichi tries to justify his actions, but no matter what he says, Imagase knows that infidelity is deeply ingrained in him, and that's Imagase's leverage to get close to him. For the second time, they spend another couple of intimate hours in a hotel. Kyoichi and Chikako go out on their date, but things don't end well for them. Chikako reveals that she hired a private investigator to expose Kyoichi's infidelity. She has hoped to divorce him and get alimony so she can be with her lover. But the report has turned out to be negative. She's ashamed of cheating on her husband despite him being a good provider, and she wants to be with her lover. That's why she asks for a divorce. After a few months, their divorce gets granted. Kyoichi now lives alone. Imagase visits Kyoichi in his new home. He initiates intimacy and gives him good service. Eventually, he moves in. Imagase is a heavy smoker, so he brings his ashtray, which has become a normal part of the house decor. Imagase does his best to earn Kyoichi's love by making sweet gestures and initiating intimacy. But Kyoichi doesn't reciprocate his feelings at all. He feels like Imagase is invading his space. Despite this, he has no heart to send Imagase away. Kyoichi continues to meet his mistress. He also lies to Kyoichi that he's just meeting a workmate. This gets Imagase all riled up, making him confront Kyoichi. Kyoichi gets pissed, saying they're not a couple for Imagase to get jealous. That's true. Imagase agrees, which is why there's no need for Kyoichi to lie about his affair. Kyoichi gives a lame excuse about not wanting to hurt him with the truth. He also adds that he's not someone Imagase should care about so much. In response, Imagase says people like Kyoichi are the worst. People who think everyone is looking for a perfect partner who'll pamper them. But that's not how relationships work. With that said, Imagase leaves. Imagase doesn't return for a couple of days, saying he's gotten another client. But when Kyoichi calls him to meet up, he returns. Imagase admits he's the type who comes running when someone he loves calls him. After their reunion, things get easy between them. Imagase becomes more comfortable with Kyoichi. Meanwhile, Kyoichi slowly opens up by being more receptive to Imagase's sweet gestures. Although he enjoys Imagase's company, he doesn't consider their situation permanent. One day, Kyoichi happens to run into Natsuki, his ex-girlfriend during his university days. They eat in a restaurant, happily catching up with each other's lives. It so happens that Imagase and his friend are also there. Imagase cheerfully greets Natsuki, his senior, but he's overly polite towards Kyoichi. When Natsuki asks if he has a person he likes, Imagase answers that he's busy trying to make someone he loves love him back. Natsuki is intrigued, but then she sees the pink lighter Imagase uses. She gets an insight into who he's talking about. Later, Imagase leaves early with his friend. Natsuki takes this chance to open up with Kyoichi about something she's noticed before. She says Imagase has always been in love with Kyoichi, starting from their college days. At first, she didn't believe it herself and thought Imagase was actually pining for her. But after seeing him today, her hunch has been proven. Natsuki explains about the pink lighter. Kyoichi used to own it before, and when Imagase asked for it, he freely gave it away. Natsuki is convinced the reason why Imagase still has that lighter is because it's from Kyoichi, the man he continues to love. But Kyoichi won't accept this observation. Natsuki accompanies Kyoichi to his address. but he's so drunk that she decides to walk him to his door to make sure he gets settled. To her surprise, Imagase is already inside. He takes Kyoichi in, and it seems like he's been living there for a while. This only solidifies what Natsuki has been thinking about Imagase, but she can't believe that Kyoichi would fall for him. Natsuki invites her ex again on a date. Kyoichi agrees. Then he asks Imagase if it's okay with him. Imagase says it's fine, but he stays up all night waiting for him to come home. When Kyoichi returns, he asks about what Natsuki wants, but Kyoichi is being dodgy about it. When Kyoichi turns his head away when he tries to kiss him, Imagase realizes that Kyoichi may have gone back to his old ways of infidelity. So Imagase asks Natsuki out to settle things. There's a hint of contempt in her voice as she says she's being summoned by a persistent gay guy. She recalls how Imagase used to feign sympathy when she vented her frustrations about her relationship with Kyoichi, but he was actually trying to break them apart. Imagase retorts that she actually knew how he felt, and so she enjoyed tempting him with crumbs from her relationship with Kyoichi. Imagase quietly pleads with her to leave Kyoichi alone. Instead, Natsuki mocks him for pining for a man for a long time, 8 years in fact, and he's only gotten close now. She sneers as she congratulates him. She advises Imagase to stop while it's still early to avoid getting his hopes up. She likens Kyoichi to a rat that willingly follows the Pied Piper. She scornfully looks at Imagase and vows to never let Kyoichi down the gutter. At that point, Kyoichi arrives. As it happens, Natsuki has told him about her meeting with Imagase. She figures it's better if the man himself makes the decision in front of them once and for all. Natsuki is relentless in forcing Kyoichi to choose, even though Kyoichi doesn't want to make a choice. In the end, Kyoichi turns to Imagase and tells him he can't choose him. A straight guy just can't handle it. Imagase is visibly hurt, but he pretends that everything's okay. Natsuki may have been chosen, but Imagase knows well Kyoichi's tendency to entertain those who show affection for him, including Imagase. After disappointing Natsuki in bed, Kyoichi returns home. He finds Imagase sulking as he watches a movie. Kyoichi plans to not make a big deal out of what happened, but then Imagase asks him to have sex with him. Kyoichi's hesitation pisses him off. As much as Imagase loves the man, Kyoichi's indecisiveness is what allows others to take advantage of him, and what gives Imagase a hint of hope. One "no" from him, and Imagase would have stopped his advances. But Kyoichi never said it, he just allowed Imagase to love him, even though he can't love him back. Just as Imagase stands up, Kyoichi stops him. Without words, he lets his lover know that he would like to try. Kyoichi didn't realize before that being with Imagase has opened a new perspective for him, and he's yet to embrace it. That night, Kyoichi and Imagase have become one, with the soft sound of rain serving as their background. Since their union, Kyoichi has become more considerate of Imagase's feelings. He used to get angry when Imagase read his messages on his phone, but now, he allows him to have a look at it. Kyoichi also gifts him a special wine for his birthday. Imagase is so moved by this. After pining so long for the man he loves, he finally receives love from him. They meet Tamaki, Kyoichi's junior, in the company he works at. Tamaki gives Kyoichi cheesecake to complement the special wine. It so happens she's the one who recommended the liquor as a gift. Imagase inquires about Tamaki, but Kyoichi doesn't give too much detail about her. However, Imagase has this hunch that Kyoichi will become unfaithful again, and he's right. Imagase finds out that Kyoichi has been seeing Tamaki while he's away for work. He confronts him about the morning suit with stains of makeup, which Kyoichi never bothered to hide. Kyoichi explains that Tamaki is his boss's daughter from an illicit affair. When the boss passed away, Kyoichi felt it was his duty to comfort the grieving daughter since she couldn't reveal who she was. But Imagase doesn't buy his excuses. All his insecurities rise to the surface as he demands to know what Kyoichi truly feels. In the end, he concludes that they're not the ones for each other. Kyoichi challenges him on that notion and suggests they should break up. Imagase slaps him. All the pain he's been feeling has been poured into that slap. He's stooped down so low just to earn a fraction of Kyoichi's love, and yet the man remains indecisive and unfaithful, which only hurts him more. Later, Kyoichi and Imagase drive to the seaside to spend one last time together. Kyoichi pursues a relationship with Tamaki after his breakup with Imagase. In Kyoichi's apartment, she sees the ashtray that hasn't been put away. She immediately understands that Kyoichi hasn't fully moved on from his ex, who she thinks is a woman. She tells him that when he falls in love too deeply, he can't hold himself together, and he falls apart. Tamaki's words seem to ring true for Kyoichi in the next few days. He visits a gay bar, hoping to get a glimpse of his former lover. Instead, he only gets reminded of their intimacy and the time they spent together. Kyoichi gets out of the bar crying heavily, as he realizes Imagase has left an unfillable void in his heart. Still, he continues his relationship with Tamaki. Kyoichi thinks he'll return to his former self if he carries on with his relationship with her. Tamaki is a good woman, so Kyoichi thinks that putting a ring on her finger will be the answer. Of course, Imagase finds out about this. In truth, he's been stalking Kyoichi since their breakup. He hasn't fully moved on, and he wants to be with him again. Throwing away his pride, Imagase pleads with Kyoichi to let him be with him. Their secret relationship doesn't have to interfere with Kyoichi's marriage. All that Imagase asks for are spare moments from him, and that will be enough. Initially, Kyoichi refuses. As part of his efforts to change, he allows Tamaki to change the curtains in his apartment. However, old habits are hard to curb. Kyoichi invites Imagase to his apartment after Tamaki leaves, which leads to another passionate union between them. After the act, Imagase comments on the tacky curtains. Then he nonchalantly suggests Kyoichi should break up with Tamaki. To his surprise, Kyoichi says he's about to do it the next day. Imagase calls him a liar, but Kyoichi chides him. He's serious about it and even suggests they should live together from now on. This catches Imagase off guard and triggers his trust issues. If he accepts the offer, they'll be back to how they were before they broke up. Imagase will be content with crumbs of Kyoichi's love, but he can never trust him to be faithful. The cycle will continue, and who knows how long they can endure this toxic cycle. In the end, Imagase chooses to leave Kyoichi. True to his words, Kyoichi breaks up his engagement with Tamaki, saying his ex has returned. Tamaki pleads with him if she can stay. She's even willing to be his affair partner. Her words echo those of Imagase's, which makes Kyoichi realize how awful and indecisive he's been in his relationships. The only way to break the cycle is to change his ways. Before, he would have said yes to Tamaki's pleas, but now he chooses to make a stand. He says no matter how good she is to him. We see a flashback to when Kyoichi and Imagase spent their last time together at the seaside. Kyoichi remembers Imagase's words. When he loves someone, it means that person becomes the exception in everything. Perhaps Kyoichi is finally understanding that he loves Imagase, and he's starting to make a stand to show it. He doesn't know that Imagase continues to hurt because he can never trust Kyoichi despite his deep love for him. After changing the curtains and putting the ashtray on the table, Kyoichi sits at the bar stool where Imagase used to always sit. This is day one of him making a change and waiting for Imagase to return.